Coming up on Stow Nation.
Well, fast forward about 4 to 6 months with me getting more aggressive with my shopping, going out to different stores and looking at what inventory they had on the lot, and me getting in more and more of them. And ultimately, it was like, okay, the storyteller made the right decision for a person like me. I do not need a fixed bath. I'm not embarrassed about going to the bathroom in public. I camp all the time. We dig holes for that. That's not something I'm worried about. I go to Burning Man. We have a bucket for that.
Welcome to another episode of Stow Nation, a production of Park Media. Before I introduce today's guest, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share, and leave a 5-star review. And if you find this podcast useful in any way and want to pay us the ultimate compliment, head on over to our Patreon page where you can subscribe to be a Classic, Stealth, or Beast Mode subscriber. Welcome back, Stow Nation, to Happy Hour number 3. On this episode, you'll be able to meet Chris and Liz Mirabile, David Matusiak, and Steve Binkley. The 5 of us talked about a bunch of fun topics such as upgrades, having to deal with the HOA that doesn't allow RVs, dealing with higher fuel prices, and so much more. So with that, please sit back, relax, and welcome the crew of Happy Hour number 3 to the Stow Nation family. Well, welcome to Happy Hour number 3. I'm super excited about doing these happy hours because it allows, I think, everyone to be able to see each other, at least in person, virtually, and we get to meet each other, and we just need to pretend like we're around a campfire. No, I'm just joking. But at least we get to see each other, so that way when we meet in person, we'll actually have a face and a name. But I'd like to start off with introductions. So I'm pretty sure most people know who I am, so I'll go ahead and just get myself. Christopher, if you want to lead us off.
Well, sure. I'll be right back. I have to go light something, some of the furnishings of the room on fire, and then I'll be right back. Well, I should defer to my bride, but I'll quickly go first. So we live in the Northeast. I'm Christopher Mirabile, and you can see my spouse on the screen there, Elizabeth Mirabile, goes by Liz. I go by Christopher, and we're based in the Northeast, the Boston area, and have traditionally spent a lot of our time down in the National Seashore, out on the outer reaches of the Cape, and since the pandemic, have pretty much moved down there full time. So every time we go on a journey in our beast, we have to make it out of that little narrow part of the United States where you have to kind of get around New York City and down in to get anywhere. So, and our beast is beast number 105. It's I think one of the only, if not the only, 22s that didn't get the kooky numbering. We got the last of the sequential numbering on 105. And everybody else has gotten the 22-08 or 22-10 or whatever. So, it's a 21 chassis, and it's the white rather than the pebble gray, which is beige, and they call it gray for reasons no one can explain. And I think that's about it. We haven't done too much in the way of upgrades. We have done some work on the back of the van in terms of like storage and stuff like that, roto packs, but keeping it pretty simple so far. Did some dashboard stuff, but that's about it. What else would you add, Liz? Anything?
No, I mean, just super happy to be here and to be a beast owner. We kind of fell into this serendipity, really. We've never really been camper or van people before, and just got inspired through actually kind of connecting up with a dealer up in New Hampshire. So we've taken 16-day trip. Our first trip was we didn't do any like halvesies here. We didn't go for like a shakedown weekend. We just went 4,000 miles.
4,500 miles. Yeah. We know how much 4,500 miles costs in diesel now.
Oh my God. An arm and a leg? You're pinching?
Yeah. So, yeah. All right.
Cool. Steve, you want to go next?
Yeah, you bet. Thanks so much for the invitation, Youngwa. So, Steve Binkley, my wife and I, Christy, live in the great state of Texas, specifically in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex in a town called Mansfield in the Mid-Cities. We drive a 2020 chassis, 2021 Storyteller Stealth. We've had that now since November, so 4 or 5 months. We're a national park aficionados, so kind of on a quest to see all 63, Grand Canyon, Big Bend. We're at 49 of 63 national parks. We've done it, quote, the expensive way by flying and renting cars with our two boys. Now, of course, we have a nearly $200,000 van, so I don't know if it's the least expensive way, but to knock out the rest of these, we're going to jump in this van and take a big trip this summer up through the Badlands, North Dakota, South Dakota, and over to Glacier National Park. Also trying to see all 30 Major League ballparks, which has been difficult through COVID, as a lot of travel has been. But there's 30 ballparks and 26 of 30 down, so going to see a couple this year as well. I work for a medical device company. We're empty nesters. I've got a boy in the U.S. Navy, and I've got a son who's a college pitcher. So the lovely Mrs. and I now have some time to travel, and we're going to do that in
Nice.
the Storyteller.
Awesome. That's a great setup you got going on. What college does your son pitch for?
Yep. So he's at a Division I school in Northeast Tech. It's called Northeast Texas in Mount Pleasant, Texas. Actually just had Tommy John surgery. He's a pitcher. He's got a big fastball, but the ligaments aren't keeping up with the arm. So he'll take a medical red shirt, but it's a freshman, so he'll have another 4 years to pitch in college. And great kid, hard worker. And we're thrilled for him and thrilled for our son in the U.S. Navy as well.
Yeah, that's super
Thank you
awesome.
for his service.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, thank you.
I've got the brown drink. I've got from Loretto, Kentucky. I have some Maker's Mark tonight.
Nice.
Nice.
All right, David, you're up in the shoot.
Hey, I'm David Matusiak, and I reside in Carson City, Nevada. And I'm kind of an outdoorsy guy. I like to go camping and ride around in the Jeep, exploring dirt roads and other places in the wilderness. And Nevada is the perfect state for that. So, I have easy access to California, and then, I want to do some out trips to Utah, etc. Long story short, I am not an STO owner, but I ordered one 15 months ago. So I am precipitously close to being an owner of a 2022 STO Beast, and I look forward to taking delivery of that unit. And the first, shakedown trip will be coming from Las Vegas, where I pick it up, back to Carson City, where I reside. So that should be fun, and hopefully no breakdowns out in the desert there. And I really look forward to meeting some of the STO people and going to whether it's the Baja event, which unfortunately I think I'll miss this year, but other events that are hosted. It looks like a fun group of people to hang out, and adventurous folks to get tips from on other places to go where the STO can actually drive and not hit an overpass or overhang or something like that. So that, I guess that's my perspective, and I'm drinking a ginger beer.
Ooh, nice.
Very nice.
Christopher and Liz, are you guys drinking anything?
I got nervous and I finished. I had a fresh made glass of limeade and I drank it all because I was so nervous about my debut on the happy hour.
Yeah.
I like your sense of humor.
We'll wait for you.
Makes for a good marriage.
I know, right?
She doesn't know whether to laugh or cry most days.
Well, either way, you're having fun. That's all that matters, right? Well, I'm drinking Four Roses single barrel tonight, so might get a little
Hopefully
sloshy.
not the whole bottle.
What's that?
Hopefully not the entire bottle.
No, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'll end up in the ER if that happens. I got to train Kimchi to dial 911 for me. But yeah, well, anyways, if you have a drink, cheers.
Cheers.
All right, we'll just do the cheers.
Well, is there anything you guys want to lead off with in regards to something on your mind or a question or?
I have a piece of trivia that I was really surprised by, especially given the mix of vans on this call. I don't know where I saw it. I saw it in the comments, but somebody from Storyteller responded to a comment about how you don't see a lot of stealths out there. Are they less popular? And it turns out it's their best selling model.
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah. It's, I want to say out of all the meetups, yeah, stealth is predominantly the the number one van out there. I'm trying to remember. I'm going back like over a year, but I want to say there's definitely a lot more stealths, and then it's kind of a tie between beasts and the classic. So, but a
I would
lot of
assume.
like, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I would assume the classic would outsell the beast just because of the price difference. But it's fascinating. I mean, I guess once you're in for a penny, in for a pound. You know.
Yeah.
And why would you guess that the stealth is the top seller? Is it simply the darker paint job or something else?
Um, So I wanted this stealth when I started looking, and so I think it just looks sick. I mean, it's blacked out, and the bluish one that they have is, don't get me wrong, it looks good, but I think the Stellanite gray looks better. And so when I started looking for at Storyteller, the blue option wasn't even like a thing, or the blue paint job wasn't even a thing, and so I don't know. I think it's just the fact that like I got so obsessed with it and like all the emblems were blacked out and the wheels were blacked out and I was just like, "Oh, that looks so sick." And yeah. So, I think it's just kind of more appealing than the other models. So,
I honestly think it's just like a personal preference about your own style. Like, I think a lot of people look at the Beast as over the top and attracts too much attention and is just a crazy looking thing. So let me get the quieter version of this, the stealth version. And that's totally cool. But for me, when I've been looking at them in the last many years, I'm like, I want the craziest looking van I can possibly get. And that's why I ordered the Beast mode.
My Jeep is bright yellow. I'm you and I are birds of a feather. We were desperate to find a van, and we would have happily taken a stealth and built it up. Although I think that would have actually been a nightmare given the pandemic and the supply chain stuff. And living where we live, there just aren't really good dealers and stuff. We feel really lucky to have gotten into a van that's basically built for you. And really haven't wanted for anything so far.
Yeah, so we chose the stealth, and maybe as simple as it was the middle version. I agree about the color. I was actually a little nervous about having a blue vehicle. Blue's not the greatest color, but this is actually more of a blue gray, and it looks great. So I live in a kind of a deed restricted homeowner association neighborhood. Having the big van with a bunch of accessories. In fact, I got a letter from the homeowners association. I was able to kind of talk my way through it. They do no neighbors were complaining, but a random drive by and said, you've got a camper home in your driveway. You're going to have to remove that. And I simply called and said, listen, it's not a camper. It's I might have fibbed a bit and said it's a daily driver, which is what I said, passenger van, and they were fine with that. But yeah, they did say something about, because I quickly added van compass 4.3, and I added the Owl B2 bike carrier and the spare tire carrier. Because that was kind of what is this passenger van that has all these accessories on it, right, sitting in your driveway. But so far so good.
That's the killer upgrades. That, and have you changed the wheels, Steve? The 18-inch wheels to a 17-inch set?
So I think what I'll do is let this first set of wheel tire combo kind of wear down and then do that. Somebody actually said that to me the other day and actually hurt my feelings. Like, why are the tires and wheels so small in your giant van? Like, so, but I mean, listen, I know there's a ride factor too to get some better tires. But at this point, we haven't taken a big trip. We'll take this big trip this summer, and ask me that question right after that trip. We've taken a couple of local trips here in Texas. The ride's fantastic, especially adding the van compass upgrade.
Yeah, I think it's really handsome with those wheels. I mean, it looks gorgeous. Uh, if you're going to go off road on really rocky stuff, you just want to be really careful of the sidewalls. But I think it looks great, and I think that's a really smart move to just drive the rubber right off it and then reevaluate.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
That's what I did. So, because those things, I think the entire set, well, I got a set of 5, ran me around over $2,700. So that's something that I want to get as much mileage as possible before I just go swapping it out. Because in all honesty, I don't think it gives you that immediate benefit as like other mods would. So I mean, that's just me.
Yep. One
What's
thing
the
that's
idea
a
behind
little
that?
bit
Is it just, oh, I'm sorry, Chris.
Oh no, I don't think, I think it's overstated, frankly, because I don't think anybody's really getting out there and shredding in a 10,000 pound van. But when you're aired down, a smaller wheel, like a 17-inch, and a little bit more sidewall, just gives you that much more distance between for a snake bite pinch or whatever. But you don't have to air down quite as much, and you can just drive a little more conservatively. But coming from the Jeep world, you see street tires torn on rocks all the time, and you just look for as thick of sidewall and tall a sidewall as you can get. But the one thing that's vexing us a little bit, we don't really want to do. We like the look of the bumper, and we don't really want to cut the front end to shreds. But the fact that we can't sort of easily get a winch on is bugging us. You don't need a winch ever, except for that one time when you do, and so we have a cradle, a hitch mounted cradle for a winch in the back, and if we're going to do a trip where we're off road, we'll throw it in the garage.
Honey, I think we have to tell the birthday story
Oh,
in the Jeep
Yeah,
when we got high centered in the Jeep.
we went out over the dunes on a really stormy day, and the wind had just
In
blown it
February.
in
Yeah.
February, and it blown the dunes into just an absolutely sharp peak. And coming up the hill, I sent it, and the birthday girl got mad at me. And so when we were done walking the dogs on the beach and we were going, I took it a little bit easy going back down, too easy, in fact, and kind of got a little bit high centered. And so we ended up, luckily, we have a winch, and I'm one of those rare people who actually carries a sand anchor. So a thing that'll auger down into the earth, the dirt, or the sand. So we were able to self-rescue in sand dunes, and so I always just feel like an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure. And I haven't figured out how to get a clean winch mount onto the van without changing the front end.
yeah. I don't think you can as of right now. So unless it comes with a different winch next year, but I don't know. So
Yeah, my understanding is that the Tenzing bumper, the stock bumper, that comes on the Beast, is really not that robust. You can't really use it as a recovery point. That's why have that little red pass through to the hook. That little red badge is actually, you uncover it, and the standard recovery point is underneath that thing. And so I don't know, figure it out.
Yeah. Do you have a winch on?
Steve, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was changing. So you were going to ask, do we have a winch?
I was going to ask Steve. I think she was asking Steve if he had a winch.
Oh, yeah, no. I bought Max Tracks and been able to put those on the roof carrier, but do not have a winch.
Yeah.
And Steve, have you gotten out our way? Have you come to like Fenway or to
Acadia.
National Seashore? Or Acadia, yeah.
In Acadia, yep. I actually work for a company based in Boston, so I get up there quite a bit. Love Acadia. It's by far, in my opinion, the best national park east of the Mississippi. Most of these parks are west. The really hard ones. And then, I raised my hand one day and said, I'm going to all these national parks. And then you realize there's a national park in American Samoa.
Oh.
There's 8 in Alaska.
Oh, wow.
We've been to 5 of the 8 in Alaska, and there are only 3 parks in Alaska that you can drive to. The rest are bush plane or float plane. So there's some significant expense. We took a big trip last year, of course, not in the van, to Katmai National Park, which is where the brown bears stand at the top of the waterfall and catch the salmon, and in a place called Lake Clark that requires a float plane into. So yeah, some significant expense, but now that I've committed to it, right, we're going to see it through.
I mean, you got no choice.
Yeah, especially I'm on Young Wall's webcast here, telling everybody about it.
Yeah.
Right, I got to finish it. Hold myself
I
accountable.
know,
You can't
right?
camp in the river. You can't camp in the river, Steve. You got to get to the other side.
You're gonna lose all that street
That's
cred.
right. That's right.
Actually, one thing that I've been pondering about is doing like a basically like a convoy up to Alaska and trying to basically spend the entire summer. But it's hard to get people that can like drive all the way up there and spend the entire summer, and to the point where like you can hopefully see the northern lights. But uh, I think that'd be
That's the
pretty
You had
cool.
to
Alcan
you had to
Highway,
bring you
right?
had to bring this up. You had to bring this up. It's an open marital dispute, and you had to go there. Uh, we we have to go to a we're going to a wedding in Bainbridge Island in July of 2023, and we've already reserved like the best site and the best campground for like on a few days on either side of the wedding. But I'm like, come on, we're right there. Alaska's a short hop. Let's just pop up there and take a little, kick the tires, take a look around. And the bride is like, no, we will be going left to California, not right to Alaska.
Sorry, I didn't know that was a sore
Mm.
point.
Yeah, we're not going to have to work through it again.
Well, I hope I get an invitation to the wedding. No, I'm just joking.
It's our nephew,
It's our nephew. We invited everybody back to the storyteller campfire to tell ghost stories about married life.
Oh, ghost stories, jeez. Oh my goodness, you guys are too much.
Actually, it's just going to be like 150 storyteller vans driving up the Alcan Highway to go to the wedding with you. We're going to just announce it on Facebook, and people are just going to
Yep.
show up. Make sure there's enough.
Well, don't
beer for
joke.
everybody.
I don't know, Christopher, if your sister circled back with you on this, but she kind of told us, like, save the date quietly. Like, the couple isn't actually formally engaged.
Oh.
And, Christopher ran out, reserved the thing, sent a wide email to everybody saying, like, we're set.
Yeah, come to the campfire. Hey, man.
Oh,
I saw a picture
It's
of
on
diesel
her. She
prices
shouldn't
on the
have told
Dalton
me.
Highway.
That's right.
Dalton.
Oh, yeah, hopefully
So
the diesel prices.
$9.99 for diesel
What?
in the Dalton Highway. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Which is ironic too, because that's where natural gas is piped down to Bristol Bay, but it's the trucking to get to the stations after it's been refined. So $9.99 currently.
Holy cow, that is crazy. Well, what is it in California right now? It's like $7-8 right now. I don't know.
Death Valley is $7. Yep.
Really? Holy.
We
That's
averaged
insane.
509 on our trip, and 509 per gallon on our trip. When was that? March. It was basically the month of March, which is kind of right around a spike. And it was we were in the east. But
And it's usually $5 to $6 around Lake Tahoe area.
Yeah.
Not much cheaper in Nevada.
$5 here in Texas.
Does the diesel prices kind of scare you? Since you're gonna have to pay over $100 to fill up, David.
That is a concern. But I bought the thing to drive and use, so I'm not actually gonna stress about it too much. I mean, if it goes $9.99 a gallon and up permanently, then we'll probably have a different conversation. Sure. But hopefully, stuff in the world improves and our diesel supplies come down to more, habitable range. But no, I'm going to drive the heck out of it no matter what.
That's good.
We don't fill up. It saves a lot of money if you add when you're halfway down, then you only have to put in half a tank. So it's only like $50. That saves you a ton.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chris,
that's what I do.
Emotionally.
Are you sure you're not doing that? Yeah. So like you don't leave the truck with a full tank of gas for the car thief and they're driving it all the way to Mexico, before they need to fill up?
Well, we did bring a couple yellow roto packs on our first trip. We just didn't really have a sense of how long a leg we were going to want to drive and what kind of mileage on the van. Spoiler alert, not great. But so we ran in, I don't know where we were like West Virginia, somewhere where the diesel was like 50 cents cheaper than anywhere we'd seen. So we immediately filled the Rotopaxes up. And we were like, we're going to treasure this stuff. It's cheap.
And I'm the same way when I'm going westbound and I'm cutting through like Arizona or something. It's like there's big signs, last gas stop before California. I'm like, oh crap, pull over. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty
Actually, the
crazy.
running out of fuel is more my concern because the places I want to go are extremely remote. And so, one of the upgrades I'm thinking about the most is that extended fuel tank thing. But, I plan to use it for the first year to try and test out all the extremes and see how far I can go and what I can do with the van as built. I'm not, I know a lot of people buy these things and they drive it right from the dealership to CA vans or Owl vans and start having pieces ripped off and replaced to the tune of $10,000-$20,000. I'm not going to be that kind of STO owner. I'm going to max it out as is, and then when something breaks or is a limitation, then I'll look to replace it.
Where are you trying to go?
I think that's a good approach, David.
Yeah, what Steve said. That's a great approach. I'm just curious, where are you planning to go that's so remote?
Well, a lot of the places that I've got, I drive a Jeep now, a Rubicon 4x4, and I'm just going to, whether it's the Black Rock Desert or, the Pine Nut Mountains in Dayton or some areas that I'm noticing when I get into, like, oh, now this is the good part, the cool part that I want to explore. I'm already out of fuel. I got to turn around and go home. So if I'm doing that with a Jeep that is 4,000 pounds and relatively fuel efficient compared to the monster truck, like, then I don't know if I'm going to be able to take the Sprinter 10, 12, 20 miles out into the wilderness. Am I going to have the half tank to get back, or am I going to be in a risky zone then trying to not get back to the nearest station? That's the question.
Yeah, we found that an unmodified beast, carrying a full load, the kind of thing that a couple people would take for a couple weeks, is realistically has about a range of 350 to maybe 380. It's not over 400 in my experience, but
Okay,
you
I was
can put an
expecting
extra.
300, so that's not bad.
Yeah, that's not too bad, and you can put another 150 miles of diesel on the back if you want. So you're probably going to find you can do a lot of what you want to do.
Yeah, if you tune the ECU, you get a little bit better MPGs too, but it's kind of expensive to do that. So I don't know if that's worth the bang for the buck. Well, I think it is.
And well, what is that?
So there's two main ECUs. So the ECU is basically the computer that controls everything, like when to shift gears and stuff like that, right? Um, so what it'll do is basically you go in and you hack the computer to tell the, motor to do this instead of that. And there's two main companies out there. The first one is Kerma, and the second one is Rentec. And Kerma is based out of Colorado, and Rentec's based out of Florida. And basically, what that does is it gives you more pep to the step, and so you don't need like a pedal box or anything like that. But I've heard really good things with both of the companies. Maybe a little bit more on the Kerma side for those that like to hang out in high altitude, but it'll also help make your van run more efficient. Thus, you get better MPGs. But I mean, we're talking like maybe like 0.5 to 1. So, but I mean, over 60,000 miles, that's better than nothing. So
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a worthwhile modification if you're going to keep it long term, for sure.
yeah, the biggest thing, or should I say, the downside of it is technically it'll void the warranty. So if you go to like a dealership that's cool with it, then you're fine. But if you go to one that is like, by the book, then they're probably going to tag you for it. So that's the downside. So a lot of people like to wait until their van is past 36,000 miles. So
Yeah. I mean, you just change it. The manufacturers tend to be a little conservative on performance versus wear, and you're just sort of making a different guess. David, the other thing, I actually expect the mileage to go up a little bit as the engine loosens up. I don't know, Steve, what your experience has been with your turbo diesel, but these things are pretty tight tolerances, and they're high compression, and there's a fair amount of friction in them, and I fully expect the engine to break in, and I have a feeling that there'll be a 5% increase in gas mileage, if not more, after 20,000 miles or so. Did you see that at all, Steve?
Yeah, we're still breaking ours in. Really, only just right at 1,000 miles. So, um, I've actually been a little bit surprised at the gas mileage has been positive to me. Um, yeah, I mean, listen, we all want the price of diesel to come down. I hadn't paid attention to gas prices. I drive a Jeep Grand Cherokee and fairly fuel efficient, but somebody had told me the other day, I never really thought about this, said had the price of diesel typically been less than the price of like regular fuel, and that's somehow switched here recently. So yeah, where everything's kind of upside down right now.
Yep.
So, how many miles do you guys have on your vans?
We're closing in on 5,000 on ours, which isn't too bad of an accomplishment for 1 month of ownership.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Technically, you went from one side of the country to the other, so.
Yeah. But it's going to get
it's
going to pick up some miles in May and June. It's going to be on pretty much continuous duty for the next couple months.
Gotcha. What about you, Steve?
Yeah, I'm just at 1,000 miles. In fact, it makes me nervous, walking by the van and not using it enough, right? So, this big trip this summer will obviously put probably 3,000 to 4,000 miles. Be a big trip. In fact, the joke is that I'm going to be pressure testing my relationship with my lovely bride because, it's it's a wonderfully comfortable van, but as we know, it's still a van, and we've had some conversations about. I think the sleep's going to be fine. The Groove Lounge is super comfortable for me, and she has that backspace in the back. I don't think we're going to bring dogs on the trip, but of course, I don't know if you want to get into a squatty potty discussion, but that was a big topic of conversation in our house.
Yeah, no, let's do it because that's a lot of people's concerns. How do you guys resolve that? Like, what's your game plan?
Well, it's interesting, Steve. We have the same sleeping setup. I've got the back, and Christopher's got the Groove Lounge.
And I love the fact that the Groove Lounge gives you the ability to have a little bit of elevation on that end, on the head end of the bed. So it's really killer comfortable. Although we did add some topper, right? So we're a little softer.
Yeah, you have to have a topper.
Right.
I put a topper on the main bed too. But I mean, we did surprisingly well, I would say, on the bathroom front, wouldn't we, honey? I mean, we got all nervous.
Will you define that? What does that mean, surprisingly well?
Well, we were worried that it was going to be hard, and you end up using the bathroom in the van so much less than you think, right? So you think it's going to be a big issue and that you're basically going to have to go to the bathroom all day, every day. And in fact, you have to stop for diesel and lunch every once in a while. And so it's not a problem.
Sure.
But we haven't actually tried the Dometic that came with the van because we did all of our research with the crew on the Facebook group and ended up going with a really inexpensive, I don't even remember the brand, but we got it on Amazon. And it's basically a dry bag system. And the bags are affordable and the thing is affordable. And it's a little bit more compact and got a little privacy tent. So just a piece of cake, really, not a problem.
But literally, we used that one time in 16 days. I mean, we really didn't have to use that. We used public restrooms, or we were camping at a park where there were facilities, or a harvest host, where there were showers and bathrooms and everything. So we didn't get too out there in the wild, but I think in some ways that's easier. Then you can just pitch your little tent.
We were, it was funny, actually. We were kind of odd ducks in most of the campgrounds because I think in a lot of ways, these campgrounds with a ton of facilities are kind of wasted on Storytel paper. So all these fifth wheels with or toy haulers with these gigantic trailers and black tanks, these people would come in and they're just in a panic to get connected to electricity and sewer and water because those things are useless without hookups, right? And we'd roll in and like, we weren't connected to electricity or water or anything. We didn't care. They're all looking at us like we're crazy. And the only facility we're using, I'll be right back. I got to go take a leak.
Yeah, they got to connect the fifth wheel to the power and to the cable and set up their satellite dish like watch NASCAR. It's a
Put the
long
flag up.
process.
Yeah.
I mean, we would like literally
for us,
just pull in, the dust is settling, or jump out with the dog. We go for a walk, and they're like, what about the ritual? What about the 4 hours of connecting and putting the little picket fence around your campsite? And we're like, no, we don't go for that.
I had a couple of headwinds with the lovely missus, and one of them was her best friend. So, we're new to kind of recreational vehicles. Like I said, we would fly and rent a car and stay in nice hotels typically. But so her best friend and her family and her husband are buying a $500,000 Tiffin at the same time we're, waiting for the storyteller. And this Tiffin is super nice. It's got, washer and dryer, and it's luxurious. And, here I am with, van down by the river proposition for the lovely missus. And so here's what's turned out though in a couple of overnights. We've gone to a couple of Harvest Host wineries in Texas. And, the joke is you stay for free, but I wound up spending $150 on wine to stay for free. But I also bought her a pop-up tent to take the Dometic, and so far that's worked fine, right? On a couple of nights. And, in Texas we have Buc-ee's, and I said, I'm still going to drop you off at Buc-ee's that have luxurious bathrooms. So that part's working okay. And she's starting to get it, right? This idea that you don't have to go plug in. You don't have to stay at a recreational vehicle park. And that, the van, although it's small, especially this ability to turn around the front seats and kind of lounge around and put out the Groove Lounge. I mean, that's cool, right? And then, and you guys have all heard this. It's let's get somewhere and get outside of the van, put out the awning and put out some comfortable chairs. And she's starting to get that's cool. So, yeah, I think the squatty potty, as she calls it, it'll be one of the things that's not the greatest. Surprisingly, she's been really okay with the shower. Having a son in the Navy, we can say we're going to take a Navy shower, right? A quick shower, 20 gallon plus tank. But that's worked okay. Again, we're going to stay in a couple of places. I think, Liz, you said you stayed at Harvest Host that has a couple facilities that we've done that. I think we'll stay around Glacier National Park. Inside the national park, we actually got a pretty desirable campground that's one of the best in the Park Service that has, has showers and such. So I love the shower off the back. Been able to use that. That's great. So everything that's kind of controversial becomes less controversial when you realize kind of the freedom you have with the van.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
well
Exactly. Who? Yeah.
I was just going to say, Steve, that Tiffin is definitely luxurious and, a beauty to see around town and to sleep in or whatever, but you're limited to the campgrounds and the camp resorts, which can be very expensive. So I'm hoping that you can show your wife, some remote areas where this thing can actually bring y'all to, away from crowds, away from multitude of other campers. So you get that wow factor. You're on top of a cliff, and we just got up here to this
100%.
secluded private campsite. That sounds awesome to me. Both sound good, but
Yeah, you bet. For sure.
Yep.
Yeah, going past the campground is always the best. Like in the National Forest or BLM, or it doesn't matter. Like, it's just great to be away from like the campground. Um, so just out of curiosity, David, are you traveling with anyone? And if so, what's the concern with the bathroom situation, if any?
yeah, absolutely. I do have a fairly decent answer for this. So it's just me. I used to have a dog. She passed away, unfortunately, but was with me almost 17 years. So I have been looking at the Class B investment for about 8 years. This has not been like a flippant decision or like hey, let me buy this on a whim. Like, it was strategically trying to buy this specific vehicle. And at that time, really, it was only the Airstream Interstate, which is a gorgeous coach. It's very nice, but that was kind of, it was either a stripped down van you build yourself, or that was kind of your option. And they're very pricey at the time. And I was like, let me just wait a few years for some used ones to go on the market, and I can get it at a discount or whatever. Anyway, long story short, prices are going up. Selection is getting more limited. The ability to get many of these things, especially with the last 2-year crisis, has been risky. And so I've had a lot of time to look at this and make this decision. And I had to have that closed bathroom. I wanted the closed shower, privacy, all that was so important. And then I tried to get in it. I'm 6'4", about 220 pounds, so like a human giant, And so me trying to even stand in a Class A shower is ridiculous. And then the Class B and C ones were clownish. Oh, and there's a toilet you're tripping over while you're trying to shower or whatever. So I went when the STO came out. I was like, I don't know how I got the announcement, but I was like, that's a cool looking truck, but I can't invest in that because it doesn't have a closed bathroom. Well, fast forward about 4 to 6 months with me getting more aggressive with my shopping, going out to different stores and looking at what inventory they had on the lot, and me getting in more and more of them. And ultimately it was like, okay, Storyteller made the right decision for a person like me. I do not need a fixed bath. I'm not embarrassed about going to the bathroom in public. I camp all the time. We dig holes for that. That's not something I'm worried about. I go to Burning Man. We have a bucket for that. So, there's not a problem to get past the bathroom issue. But having that extra space and the visible sight line to the back of the van, being able to flexibly lift up the bed or cabinets or, move things around, the true mode nature of the vehicle ultimately was the coolest thing I had seen or heard. And all the slick gear they put in there, the craftsmanship quality, the execution, that's what sold me on this van, not having a closed bathroom. But and then literally everybody you talk to is like, you're living out of the van. You're getting the van is to get you to your destination so you can go out to something. And then all that bathroom use is your rest stops, your gas stations, your restaurants, your stops along the way. So that really, for me, it's not that big of a concern. If I meet a beautiful young woman in the future, she may be a little bit more concerned about the bathroom issue, but hopefully she's really cool with off-roading and adventure van stuff.
Well, I was going to say, if she's not, then she's not the one.
Right. She's going to have a lot of challenges with me. I can be a little bullheaded at times.
That's funny.
Steve, how did you discover Storyteller? I mean, it's an up-and-coming brand, but it's still not... I find how people found it to be fascinating.
Yeah, so I am part of a couple of groups on Twitter that's national park enthusiasts, and to your point, the kind of the van life thing has popped up, and so yeah, I mean, I'm sure you guys have done the same and seen the YouTube videos, and kind of we bought the van sight unseen, like a lot of folks have. Although we did get, after I put a deposit down, was able to go see a van that somebody had delivered and take a look at. In fact, that really ramped up the conversation with my wife, Christy, because like, this is what you're buying. This is what we're spending the money on. And thank goodness, though, she's kind of fallen in love with the van like I have. So, yeah, I mean, just social media. I mean, that's it's interesting how that's kind of changed in our world. I mean, this webcast is a perfect example of that. Where do you consume your information? We're not reading newspapers. We're not watching a lot of nightly news commercials, right? So, what you're doing here with Stow Nation webcasts and obviously the Facebook page. I was lucky to meet Jeff Hunter at the Tampa RV show that kind of solidified, the understanding, which I think everyone on this call understands, what they're running a kind of a special company here, right? And this customer experience is very, very important. And that was reinforced when I was able to meet him and some of the guys there at the Tampa RV show. So yeah, we're all in at this point for sure.
It's kind of a dawning realization for us. I mean, I follow a lot of social media content around getting outdoors and the Jeep world and stuff, and some YouTube channels that are kind of outdoor oriented. And the Revels started to catch my eye. They're pretty handsome. They're gray. They look pretty rugged. And not knowing anything about the market, there's a certain appeal there. But it's a great company. But I personally didn't have terrific associations with the quality level of the brand. And I don't know, maybe it's better now. But I couldn't see myself, in a Revel, and started to. One of the channels I follow I think Storyteller's done a great job loaning vans out to influencers. I know that's a big program, and I think it's been very effective. So my first introduction to a beast was a channel I followed already, who borrowed one for a weekend, and I was like, "Damn, that's a cool van." And then it just, you start to be a little bit more aware of it, and they started to pop up, and I think I sent some pictures of it to my wife over the course of a year or so, and then when we needed to go to New Orleans from the Northeast, and when you realize like how much it costs to try to rent an inferior van, it really accelerated our search. And we were relatively lucky to find a van that should have been allocated, but it hadn't been allocated because the dealer network was expanding and a salesperson moved and took an allocation with him. And he was a pretty high volume salesperson. So we really had to beg him to put a deposit down because they had a policy that you really needed to go see the van in person and so forth. And so we arranged to look at another van, and we're able to comply with their rules and do it in a way that was fair to the other salespeople and stuff. And it worked out. And so, it was pretty much love at first sight.
Yeah, I think when we told them that, like, if necessary, we'd be there camping out, for like the week before, because originally they were saying like it's going to arrive on the lot and the first person who puts a deposit down gets it. And we were like, okay, do you have facilities? Like, we're going to be there. Do you want us camping out for a week ahead? So yeah, we got very lucky.
I appealed to him to let us have a shred of dignity about the whole thing. I'm like, I'm trying to give you 200 grand. Like, we should probably find a way to make this easier. So he talked to his boss, and he got it sorted.
Yeah, it's great.
I think it'll be great if we can get more rentals on the East Coast. I think that's one of the things that's tough, is like literally we went, and looked everywhere, and there were a couple of Revels. We have the 3 dogs. So I will say, like, Steve, you were saying you're not taking the dogs, but the 2 of us plus our 3 dogs spent those 16 days, 4,500 miles in the van. And we definitely had to, not be doing things at the same time. That was one of the things, like, I would stay in bed while Christopher would have breakfast, and then he'd take the dogs out, and then I'd do my thing.
Yeah, at home,
but that was really the only.
You can at home. You can both. You can both be making a sandwich or a meal, sort of in the kitchen at the same time. It's a different mindset in the storyteller. And Liz was the one who sort of recognized that. She's like, if things are a little slower and a little more sequential, there's really no space problems at all. So we got into a great rhythm.
And Liz, talking to your point about rentals on the East Coast, I think STO purchased a van rental site. Is it Go Camp? Is that it, or
Go Camp? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing a spectacular growth of these things, and they're being delivered all over the United States. And with the merger with the Go Camp thing, it's very likely that soon there'll be a dusting or smattering of STO vans in almost every state, within a 100-mile drive from you, to go pick one up and rent it out and test it out. So I foresee that actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we were on Outdoorsy, and it was before the Go Camp acquisition, and when you actually start to sort it down by region and dog friendliness, we found like 2 or 3 vans, including Revels, 2 or 3 Sprinter vans in like within a few hundred miles, that you would reasonably drive for. So, and then it would have been our trip to New Orleans, when you factor in the mileage charge and stuff, it would have been about almost the cost of sort of owning a storyteller for a year. And so it's like the second trip is free, when you do that. So, it was a pretty easy decision for us.
So I have a question, and this is for everyone. I think we all know when 2023 comes around, which is for a storyteller in July, when they announce the new model, there's going to be a price increase. I'm just curious what you guys think about that.
Well, let me jump in. I talked to Andrew on Tuesday of this week, and I'm offering up this data point here. They are pretty much sold out of every vehicle they plan to manufacture for the next 36 months. So, like, get in line if you want an STO, first of all. But that's, I don't know how many billions of dollars. I don't have a calculator in front of me, but they just exploded in growth in that time frame. So that's one thing to consider when considering your question.
Yeah.
I think that when you factor in quality and functionality, and you look at the other Sprinter based conversions that you can buy from a factory, not the do-it-yourself is a different story. But I think actually the Storyteller's a bargain. The fact that there are vans that I think are much less thoughtfully designed and in many cases less well built with lower quality materials. I think that you do get a little bit more for your money and probably a little bit more resale value. So I think there's room for them to go up a little bit in price for educated consumers, as long as they do the work to educate consumers. But at the same time, you don't want this to turn into an expensive toy for the snobby demographic, right? So I think keeping the Classic in the lineup and adding the slightly less expensive LT chassis to the mix is probably pretty smart. But I don't think there's an inelastic demand. I think that there is going to be an upper limit because when you start to get 220, 230, 250, it's a little bit like the two-door Jeep. It wasn't really competing with other vehicles. It was competing with a bass fishing boat or other things. And you get up into the cost of a cabin, you got a different kind of competition. So I think it's a good value at a 10 or 20% price increase, but I think there's probably an upper limit to how far up they can go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So obviously it's not an investment, but I think we're protected from some crash. Nothing goes up forever. You can say the same thing in the housing market. But one of the, I felt justified spending the money that I spent because it's not going to rapidly depreciate. And then that goes against conventional wisdom. Cars, as soon as you drive off the lot, take a massive cut in value. But this is different. And part of that is the supply and demand piece. And I agree, Christopher, the other part is the quality piece, right? So people will spend additional money to have the quality that we know that we own in this van. And then, so, yeah, I mean, worst case scenario that we take this big trip and the lovely missus says, go buy me a Tiffin. And, I probably am able to recoup most of my cost in this van. So I feel pretty good about it, actually, as an owner. Now, I wouldn't feel great about it if I'm still on the waiting list, of course.
Yeah, and let me offer my, maybe counterpoint opposite to Chris's is, as the aggrieved consumer, I was ready to fire on all cylinders in February 2021. Money ready, financing ready. I'm ready to buy this unit from you today. And, then I was met with a minimum 5-6 month, wait in the line before I got hit with the surprise 9-month wait. And it was super duper frustrating that after all my years of searching, I had finally decided on this super expensive product that was about $90,000 over what I set my top limit for ever spending on a van. Then they're telling me, oh, the unit you're ready to buy in February 2021, you can't have at all. They don't exist. And so you're getting in line to buy one that may be, 10, 11% more than that. And it did wind up being 8, 9 or 10% more, something close to that. But anyway, it went up about 10 grand, about $10,000. And I have no insight to, the actual materials. Like, there was like some things changed about the van compass settings. Was that a more expensive lift package or a cheaper, more economical lift package? The wheels changed, are they cheaper wheels, but yet I'm paying 10% more because it's the most popular van in America. So for me, the extra 10 grand of purchase price was extremely frustrating and almost broke the deal entirely. And so if I had to wait again for a 23 model more months and it's going to go up another 10%, I would do everything I could to get out of the deal because it's beyond what I think is reasonable for it. Chris is right. Quality, super quality product in demand in a tight market. It's doing well. Van life is booming. People are coming out of the woodwork to buy these things. Not going to last forever. Maybe 5 or 10 years of the golden era of super expensive SUVs or RVs. So eventually they're going to have to come find some comfort settling point. And I think you were really close with the numbers comparing it to a cabin. Why don't I buy a cabin that I can go camp in, months out of the year in the woods and fish and stuff versus this very expensive truck. So, but they're fabulous units. They're in high demand. We can sell them at a profit. It looks like you can use it, party nonstop with your STO for a year, drive it all over the US and sell it at a profit at the end of your year. So that's a hard proposition.
Especially with these price increases.
Yeah, that's a hard proposition.
With these price increases, yeah.
So as someone who's about to come into one and I'm getting it at the 22 price, I'm going to enjoy the heck out of it and then we'll see what happens. But it's a cool unit, no doubt.
So let me ask you this, because you brought up a really good point in regards to like you bought it or you wanted it in February 21. You're not getting it until like you still don't have it and we're in 2022. And then you find out the price increase, which I think we've all seen on the Facebook group, like what you said earlier, David, that all the storytellers are sold out for 36 months or something like that, which is crazy, but at the same time, good for them. But what was it that so I actually have two questions. So the first one is, what was it that made you stick with it instead of just leaving? And then the second is, what is your advice to those that are waiting for their 23s? What's your advice to them in regards to either ditch it or wait, or like when you did wait this long, like how do you get through that wait?
Wow, it was extremely frustrating. Let me put it this way. I'm almost 50. I've been working for 30 years. I'm ready for some leisure time. And, there was definite life things that impacted me making this decision to get out of the office and into the wild outside. And so now I'm 15 months delayed on my plan of enjoying that. I've missed 2 Rubber Tramp rendezvous, 2 Baja events, multiple years of activities that I would like to participate in. So I can't tell an individual consumer how to make this decision. But for me, it was extremely difficult to hang in there. Like the first few months of September, it was like, that's expected. But going beyond that, the reason I hung in was because I couldn't get out of my contract to purchase without losing $1,000. And I'm too damn stubborn to give up that money. So I'll go through the whole damn purchase and sell it at a profit just to be a bitter SOB. But I'm not going to just donate you $1,000 for taking my phone call. So that's the reason I stuck in. Some people would have wanted to cut and run and just be done with it. But that was the reason.
What dealership did you go through?
Van City RV of Las Vegas. I hope they don't sue me.
No, they can't. They're not.
Hey, David, I have a question for you. If Storyteller looked at this situation and started a program where they just put the word out that they'll make a cash offer on anybody who wants to sell a van, and they'll give it a light refurbishment and maybe a light warranty refresh. I don't think they could take unlimited warranty risk, and get people into a used one for a year while they're waiting. Would that have been tempting to you if you knew you could sell it back to them afterwards?
What you're describing is like a Mercedes-Benz preferred ownership rehab program. So if STO wants to go through the trouble, which if I was their business advisor, I would say absolutely not, don't do this. But, if they want to go through the trouble of taking questionable quality vans in, rehabbing and reselling, they certainly have the skills and talent to do that. But I wouldn't personally, I'm risk averse, so I personally wouldn't do that. And I think I wanted the beast mode. I wanted the exact car. I don't want any other car. And I want it in pebble gray. Don't bring me a white one. I told them I will not give you $200,000 for a white Sprinter van. I could go buy one on the corner right now for 40 grand. I don't want a white Sprinter van. So we had these, frank discussions about the vehicle. And I think the pebble gray cost me a few months,
Yeah, there are fewer of them. We had two. Our dealer took delivery of two vans at the same time, and we would have preferred pebble gray. We got white, and we weren't sure the other customers cared. And we toyed. We'd already done our insurance with the van. We toyed with like saying to the salesperson, "Hey, will you check with the other people, see if they care about the color?" But in the end, we just said, "Ah, the heck with it. It's not worth it.
I
We're
know
not
I'm
we're not as
probably,
principled as you, David."
I know I'm probably a strange duck, but I just can't understand how people can put so much money for a white Sprinter van. It looks like an Amazon delivery truck or something else. Like I want it to look as crazy as possible. I want a purple
FedEx truck.
Lamborghini wrap with
Well,
like neon underneath it and like speakers outside blasting rap music. Like I want it to be the craziest van you've ever seen, not a white delivery van.
well, we
You know?
we had the same thought. I mean, the reason we did it was like, hey, if we don't like it, we'll just wrap it. We'll just turn it into a gray stealth and do it that way. So it was, it just wasn't something we
Yeah,
were
if you've
passionate
seen
about.
Mad Max Fury Road, then you know exactly the type of STO vehicle I want. Just rock speakers and the guitarist with the flames shooting out the front. Like I'm going to just tour small towns around America and bring this show to them. All the fellow, the people gather around in the country square and they're like, "Look at this guy." That's the
Oh my god,
storyteller
Party with
adventure
David.
I'm going on.
that's awesome. You
I
know
want to
what? We
party
need a
with David.
caravan, David. You and I will be besties.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun. I can
That'll be
guarantee
awesome.
That's
that.
awesome.
You should ping the bird toss because they put like disco lights underneath their van and they like did all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, you'll get a lot of good ideas from them.
Yeah, and Chad
That'll be
and
fun.
Paul, is that the guys that have the podcast, right? Did I get their names
No, I
right?
have the
Yep.
podcast.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they
The
seem like
YouTube.
a lot
Yeah.
of fun.
Yeah,
the YouTube
they're on
channel.
The Raconteurs, the Wall Smiths,
Oh, the
they
Wall
seem like
Smiths.
a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Wall
Yeah.
Smith.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We love the
I met
Russos
him
too.
at the Tampa RV show.
Yeah,
The
they're all
Russos have a chill vibe. We'd love to run into them somewhere.
yeah, they're all really cool. I've met and hung out with all of them, and I have nothing but good things to say about them. They're all in my heart.
yeah. It seems like
We
a
were a
really
little
good group of
surprised
people
that
to travel with.
when the Russos like dropped the bomb, they bought the property and they started talking about homesteading and making their own sauerkraut. We were like, "What? You think you know someone?"
I know.
They'll
Well,
be back.
I mean, I can't blame him because, like, yeah. Well, I can't blame him because I've been full time for a year and a half, and as you can see, like, I'm in a basically apartment slash Airbnb, and I'll tell you what, being on the road like that for that long of a time, it really, people think it's a drain, but it's over time. It's very taxing, and like you miss a. I feel like I miss out on like the other side of like the community and my friends because over time, like my good friends, we don't talk that much anymore because they know like I'm out doing whatever, and like versus like if we're in the same town, it's like, hey, like, I have like today my friend texted me like, hey, what are you doing this afternoon? Let's go grab a beer at whatever brewery that we hadn't checked out. I was like, heck yeah. um that's the kind of stuff that you miss, and I wouldn't say I didn't know I would miss that until I hopped in the van. So for them to do that full time for such a long time, I mean, hats off to them. But I can totally understand why they were like, nope, we're gonna settle down. So
And I think a lot of new communities are starting now within this digital nomad world. There's I'm in some van life groups, some digital nomad groups, the STO group. So there's different stratifications, but a lot of things that bring all these people together, loving adventure, loving to get out in nature, loving to travel, bringing their dogs or whatever. So I think there's a lot of drinking heavily. There's a lot of reasons that people get together and travel together. So I look forward to meeting some of these personalities and seeing the Jason Wallsmith in concert at one of these local meetups. Would be a blast.
yeah, yeah, he's awesome in concert. Have you guys, Steve or Christopher or Liz, have you guys met them, the Wall Smiths?
Haven't met them, but we've seen him perform on video and watched a fair amount of their stuff, and really just think they seem like just such giving, kind, thoughtful people. It really would be cool to hang
Yeah.
out with.
I met them at the Tampa RV show and spent probably 45 minutes. Have not seen them in concert, but are they from Iowa?
Hmm.
I mean, they're good, middle America um, folks, and just very, very friendly for sure.
Yeah, no, they're really great people. Jason did like an impromptu little concert when I was holding this donation anniversary party out in Bentonville,
Austin,
but
Nevada, right?
no, they were supposed to come, but their heater broke, and so they made the wise decision not to come out because it was like -5 degrees one morning when we woke up. But this one was over in Birmingham, or not Birmingham. Why do I keep saying that? Bentonville, Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Yeah. But
Yep.
he's like when Paul Pritz did the Sedona meetup last year. He did a little concert too, and basically like wherever he goes, like he doesn't have a problem like just busting out the guitar and just doing something acoustic. It's pretty cool. So yeah,
Mm.
I can't wait for you guys to actually be there and be able to jam out with everyone. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Something
we really
special.
look
And I love
forward
the
to it.
Volta system too, right? Like powers always equipment on Volta.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see
Question.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I just was a little bit of a topic change, but I'm curious to get your perspective, Young, on the safety of traveling to Baja. On the one hand, it just seems like the entire every content creator in the world has been down there lately, and the convoys have been good. But I have another perspective. We have a family member who's married to someone who grew up there and has family down there, and says that they really have some societal challenges in that country. They're dealing with, it's not a narco state, but there's some lawless areas. What's your take on getting across the border, getting your van fixed, getting food that doesn't make a delicate American palate sick, that kind of stuff? What do you think about that?
So I went to Baja last November. In regards to safety, I would say safety in numbers. At least roll 3, 4, 5 if you can deep. I would say 3 very bare minimum. If you can go 5 to 6, that would be better. And then always stop. If one person has to stop, everyone stops. Things of that nature, like one fills up, everyone fills up, kind of thing. Um, I personally never felt threatened, but also one of the rules was like you're not A, going to go out all by yourself, and B, we're not driving at night. So um, we were on the eastern side of Baja in San Felipe, and it wasn't that bad. Like we went into town, and Tim Morgan, who's Captain Morgan over at Storyteller,
Yep.
he brought a little Traeger um, smoker, and I love smoking meat, and I was like, oh my god, you have that? And so immediately I was like, I'm buying brisket in town, and so we all went and did like a grocery run, and um, I remember like going to the grocery store, is and we also had walkie talkies with us, which really helps. So we always had communication. That would be another safety tip. But I personally never felt like I was in any type of danger. I was a little nervous when we had to stop at a checkpoint, but then the uh, the I don't know if it's police or military or what, but the dude that was inspecting my van, he was younger. I would say like mid 20s, and he was like flirting with me. So I was like, I was like, this is gonna go one of two ways, but luckily it didn't go the second way. But
Mm-hmm.
um, anyways, so my experience in regards to that wasn't that bad. And then plus, like when you travel with 5 to 6 vans, the one thing that we noticed is that once you are like the fourth van, they don't care anymore. They're just like, "Are you with them?" And you're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, just get out of here," kind of thing. So that helps a lot too. But
Let me offer my
I
perspective,
think
Chris, or go ahead, young Law. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no worries. I was gonna say on the way back, we accidentally went through the global, shoot, the Century Line. Yeah, the Century Line, where you're supposed to have the, in I can't talk. This was, see, this is what I'm talking about. The whiskey's hitting me. We went through the Century Line on accident, and I was one of the last people in line. But anyways, you're supposed to have the global entry something and have the interview and blah 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 blah. Long story short, by the time I got there, the border patrol was like, "Are you with them?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Do you know what is supposed to happen?" And blah blah blah. I was like, "Yeah." And like he literally was like, "Is there any dogs that will, if I open up the van, will come bite me?" And I was like, "No." And he literally just like opened it up, looked, and then closed it, and he was like, "Get out of here!" And psh, we were out. So that was my experience. So I would say overall it's okay, but my biggest thing is just rolling numbers. Yeah,
Mm.
I don't know if that helps.
David, it does.
Yes.
David.
So, my perspective, I've traveled many countries all over the globe by myself. And, I'm a big, scary guy, 6'4". No, nobody's really going to mess with me. So I don't really have a lot of fear for my safety things. I've traveled to Mexico. But I'll tell you this, as a solo, I would 100% never drive a $200,000 truck or van into a foreign country, especially Mexico. So going solo, not going to recommend that. But in one of these arranged Baja trips or 4 or 5 deep, vans and people with you, totally different scenario. I would say it would be a extraordinarily unique scenario for something bad to happen to you all in a group versus the solo item, because they're basically going to want bribes or something of that nature. It's not going to be physically dangerous. It's more going to threaten your pocketbook. But I would still travel in a group and not, because the expensive truck says you're really wealthy, you're here as a tourist, and you're here to be taken advantage of. So you
Yeah.
don't want to do that solo.
Yeah, no way I would do it solo. But I don't know if Liz shares my enthusiasm, but I am a little bit keen to get down there with a group.
Well, there's one in November that Paul Pritz is doing. If you can't make the one that's about to happen in a couple weeks, so and that I
Nope,
would say that one's more fun.
I'm going on a solo one trip with my 85-year-old dad, and he's a pretty mellow dude, but I'm going down a couple weeks in advance of our departure to give him a practice night. Just make sure he's comfortable and can get around something. And I'm not bringing the dogs. Liz is being a really good sport and taking care of the dogs while I'm away. But father son trip, so I'm going to miss that next about Baja trip. But maybe we'll get out there in November, hon. Let's start working on our itinerary.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I went last year, and I think there's probably like double the amount of fans, if not more, that want to go because they kind of saw everything on social media. They're like, "Oh my god, that actually looks like a lot of fun." And it's like, yeah, we're on the beach, so it was pretty fun.
And Steve, are you retired yet, or you're still working, right? So that's what you have to
I'm still
juggle.
working. Yeah,
Yeah,
still working.
yeah. That's what we're bumping up against.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. That's an interesting topic. Is I'm slowing down a little bit in my career, but still working. And uh, we put an extra couple lagoon mounts in and had sort of 3 mounting places and 2 lagoon tables, and you just have this notion that you're going to use every feature and convert everything every which way, and it's all going to be this fantasy of like a rolling home office, and actually work I found was really pretty, having to do a little bit was pretty intrusive in the van. And we were sitting in a campground in Mississippi, in a state forest in Mississippi, and it was just pouring sheets of rain. And I'm sitting in the passenger seat, facing forward, hunched over my laptop, like searching for a signal and just trying to get a term sheet for a deal done. And I thought to myself, like, this doesn't feel as good as I thought it was going to be able to work from the road. I'm like,
It doesn't
this is
look like
not.
the van life photos where you're drinking a matcha tea and the back doors are open and like you're all relaxed. Yeah, it's not quite the same.
No,
That's what I'm
I didn't.
saying. Van life is not what it's cut out to be. Everyone is like, has hundreds of thousands of followers of like these people just going out and doing van life, but it's hard and it sucks. That's why like I don't want to do it anymore.
Oh no. Well, I think what I have like unbelievable respect for is the people who are in their vans and are posting content regularly, because man, I mean, we were struggling to like keep our friends and family up to date with Instagram, like just a couple photos. Like 48 hours would go by and we'd be like, oh shit, we
It's
forgot
been 48
to put
hours.
any photos up.
Here's a horse we saw by the side of the road.
Someone texts you, "Are you still alive? What's going on?"
Actually, that's one thing we did do is we did get the Garmin InReach, one of the devices that has a satellite, and we did turn on a breadcrumb for the family who wanted to follow our travels, and it actually kind of made a souvenir map, all our little, you could see the whole trip.
Oh yeah.
And we grabbed a screen grab of that because that was kind of fun.
What were you going to say, David?
I forgot. It was just some quip. Sorry.
Oh, no. Yeah, I actually it's called the Bivy Stick. And they're based out of Salt Lake City, but long story short, it's kind of like that, but you get to leave the breadcrumbs. They call it check-ins, like unlimited, and it doesn't count against your text message, count or whatever it is. And you have to wait, I think, every 10 minutes between each breadcrumb. But it's pretty cool because you can go in the app and like change your message. And so like speaking of safety, like when I'm, wherever, I'm like, hey, this is where I'm staying tonight. And then and you can blast it out to 6 numbers, I think, if I remember correctly. I have 5, but anyways, so you can blast out where you're staying for the night to 5 people for free. And like the cheapest, the cheapest plan is $17.99 or something like that. So and unlimited.
That's killer.
Check-in. So
yeah, I think that's a really good value. I mean, it was actually a hard decision to make because you have the question of getting an SOS and getting rescued. You have the question of having a backup mapping system. You have the question of battery life. We ended up sifting all the variables and getting a fairly large InReach that does have color topo maps and the ability to have a fail-safe backup navigation system. But it would be a lot to lug around on a day hike. If you were so everything's a trade-off without a doubt.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh,
who's that?
Hello. That's a handsome pup.
So cute.
That's Riley.
Riley.
Definitely a cutie.
That's a great looking dog.
Oh.
Dave, what type of dog did you have?
She was a reddish brown boxer pit bull mix.
Go ahead.
So this is me and my old dog at the Beverly Hills Four Seasons Hotel a few years ago.
Nice.
Nice. She was a good dog. Little pound puppy.
That's
super
awesome.
Cute.
We've got 3 rescues, and they're all pretty different, but the one thing they have in common.
Gosh.
Oh, look at that! Those two. They're all high needs.
They're like, Dad, what are you doing?
It looks like dinner time, maybe.
Yeah, they're getting a little bit fired up right now.
Yep. Well, we have been recording for well over an hour, so maybe this is a good time to call it quits. But anyways, I just wanted to say thank you guys for coming on and being the brave ones that decided to be like, yeah, I'll come on the podcast, because a lot of people are. Sto Nation is a production of Park Media. The executive producer is Younghwa Kim. The audio engineer is
Stephen Grasso.
The marketing director is
Guillaume Golson.
The original music and artist is done by
Jason Walsmith.
The sound designer is
Lorenzo Interiano.
And the webmaster is
Peng Shi.
Without any of these people, this podcast couldn't happen, so a big, huge thank you. And a big, huge thank you to you, the listener. If you like this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a 5-star review. This is Younghwa with Sto Nation, and I can't wait to share the road with you.